Hey, how's everybody doing? Wow, 4 thumbs down. Haven't even started yet. All right. Got some unhappy people here today. That's all right. Glad you guys could make it here. Glad you guys all could make it here. Willie Vasquez, how you doing? Polynesian Pip. Favor, if you guys can you let me know how the audio's coming in for you guys? Thanks, appreciate it. Polynesian Pit, how you doing? Dwayne Roberts, how you doing? RR, how you doing? RR. Favorite guys, yeah, can you let, okay, 55, thanks, appreciate it. RR, good to see you. Polynesian Pip again. Quantitative Disease, how you doing? Audio loud and clear, great, appreciate it. Yeah, so I'll just get a few more things in order here. Okay. Full name, how you doing, Weme? Let's see, how's things? Singapore's fine. We're doing great here. Things are opening back up. Shop is doing good. Everybody's happy. Everybody's happy except for 6 guys haven't even done anything yet. Thumbs down. It's okay. Some people are like that, I guess. Miss Dior, how you doing? Hello from Scotland. George Kaiser, how you doing? Buckwheat. All right, how you doing? Wait, yeah. Interesting topic. What it was, I'll explain it a bit. We kind of decided to go easy on things. I think things have been getting a pretty hectic, pretty I don't know what the right word is, but we wanted to just kind of take a break, but still stick with gold and silver, and just try and find some things that aren't so crazy that are going on in the world. I think you guys are getting, everybody's getting a bit overwhelmed, or we're all getting a lot of that kind of stuff. So we decided to move in a different path just for today. And but it's some pretty interesting things. News Junkie, how you doing? Dan Warsaw, how you doing? Annette, yeah, she was great. So hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television, SBTV. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira, and glad you could be here. A lot of people here already. Looking at the comments, yeah, you guys are pretty active today. Hopefully, my colleague Vincent will be out there so he can help me moderate some of these things. I think we got to kind of get the fly swatter out and whack a few people with it. get them maybe moving on to something else that they may be happy with. But anyway, we're happy that you're here, wherever you might be, whether it's here in Asia, Monday morning, 9 a.m., 9:03, whether you're in Europe, late at night, early in the morning, or whether you're in the U.S. spending your Sunday evening with us. We appreciate that you folks are here with us. Truth Teller, how you doing? La Petite Silver, how you doing? Again, Polynesian Pip, Chris R. William Birkin Road, first time I've seen you here. Welcome aboard. Thank you all for being here. Really do appreciate it. So again, comments are for the most part useful. So let's hope we have some good comments. Anyway, if it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to be notified on updates, and give us a thumbs up if you like what we do. These thumbs up, they really do help us out quite a bit. And it's one of the more important things that you could do for us. So we really do appreciate the thumbs up here. And as always, you can find us on social media. We're at silverbullion.com.sg. We are a bullion dealer over in Singapore. Silver Bullion SG is our Facebook page. Silver Bullion PL for Private Limited is where you can find us on Twitter. Audio versions can be found on bit.ly, SBTV iTunes, or SBTV Spotify, and do join our crisis tracker group. This is where we go and we will post News pretty much daily pertaining to finance, economics, gold, silver, things like that. So we do hope you'll join us in that group there. Alexander Estefan, greetings. Glad you could be here. First time I've seen your name here as well. So welcome aboard. Busy Mountain, Michael Cole, Todd Baker. Great topic. Thank you, Todd Baker. Yeah, what it was, as I was saying before we actually got on, was we this all had to do with the 2020 In Gold We Trust report. It came out in May, and you can download a free copy for yourself as well. And there was a chapter on it regarding the gold and silver in the Bible. So, we thought about it. We said, okay, there's a lot going on. Maybe we'll take a small breather in some ways where we'll go and take a look at this and take a little bit of a different path for this week anyway. And it is pretty interesting. Some of you guys may know some of these things. Others, it may be new to you. So we'll go ahead and we'll get into that. Peter Wilson and the Fed. Yeah. Yes. I'm down with that for sure. Let's see. The Carolyn Wilder, sorry about your name. Gold and silver are the first metals mentioned in the Bible. Absolutely. So we are definitely going to get into that. Mike Ryan, appreciate it. Liked and shared. First time I've seen your name here as well. So welcome aboard. Again, guys, we do appreciate you coming on. And again, thumbs up are probably the biggest way you could help us. So we appreciate that very, very much. So I'm going to start off by revisiting history, because what history tells us is usually what the future will tell us, but it's only recent history. We're going to go back to last week, and we're going to take a look at one clip from our interview with Lynette Zhang from ITM Trading. She's a great guest to have on. Lynette, if you're out there, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights. And I think a lot of you appreciated it as well. So I'll play one clip, and then we'll go ahead and we'll talk about it for a bit.
How much of these new habits that that the pandemic has forced on us, how many is that going to maintain? How much more are we going to see the local banks, for example, that were really pretty instrumental in getting out those PPP loans, the payroll protection plan loans to the smaller and medium-sized businesses? I think we're going to see a lot more consolidation in a lot of areas, which gives us fewer and fewer choices. And what that means is that then they can control they get a lot more control, not just in pricing, but in what you're using, what you're seeing, etc. And that's the part that really scares the heck out of me. And I do want to add this, because for me and for everybody, if you have gold and silver that is outside of the system, then you get to retain your choices. If everything you do and everything you have is inside of the system, somebody else is choosing for you. I got news for you. And we all have to decide for ourselves. Is that okay? Because they're going to make choices that are in their best interest first. We need to start making choices that is in our best interest first.
Okay, so we need to be making choices that are in our best interest first. And one of those choices that Lynette Zhang said was gold and silver. The reason is because, we can't avoid it. We have to keep one foot in the financial system today, the monetary system today. But the other foot, if you can, you may want to be putting that other foot outside of the financial system. And this is where something like gold and silver comes in. And again, it's more than just the price. It's more than just the everyday up and down. It is a form of insurance. And we're going to be taking a look at some of these things. So what do y'all think about what Lynette said about this consolidation going on, this control going on, and things like that? Take a look at some of the comments here. Be your own central bank. Absolutely. I think, in some ways, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but in some ways, it kind of relates to what Lynette is saying. Be your own central bank. Because when this fiat system does start to explode, whichever way you want to look at it, you need you need something to transfer the value of what you had in paper, meaning the value of what you had in fiat. You need something to transfer it into that can store that value while the fiat system uh, maybe even goes away, restructures, whatever it is. You need something to transfer over that store of value from fiat or the paper monetary system into something else like gold and silver that can store your wealth. But they are, there are going to be, or will be, a new monetary system eventually. I mean, it can't stay like that forever, right? I mean, a new monetary system will come, and this is where you want that store of value. So take a look at some of these comments here. Um, Danny the plumber, how you doing? Let's see. Captain Ron Hayward. Lynette Zhang released a new video today. Everyone should watch it when they get a chance. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. I'll watch it. I'll watch it after this. Okay, there you go. Let's see. Donald Best. Sorry. Every single small business was put out of business in the last several months. Very few left. Yeah, I understand small businesses are having a beyond a rough time, and we're seeing big business, get helped out a lot more than small business. It seems, and that's a bit unfortunate because I think we all know that small business is pretty much the backbone of almost or most economies, and it's an important thing for that small business owner to stay afloat and employ people and give people meaningful jobs. So that's an important thing. Mike Ryan, silver gold ratio will tighten. It's what a lot of people think, and it's one reason why we do play that silver gold ratio. Right now it's definitely a time for silver. Usually, anytime it's above 80, it's a good time to go ahead and take a look at silver. And with that, we silver, it's a bit more volatile than gold. You got to have the stomach for it in some ways, because some days you're going to be jumping for joy, other days you're going to be, asking yourself, did I do the right thing? But I would say, it's, as long as you have the one foot out of the financial system, you're probably doing the right thing. We're already seeing where things are going. But that was Lynette Zhang. So she had a lot of good advice, a lot of good commentary. And next up, we're going to have Nicholas Proughton. And Nicholas Proughton, he's a young guy. He's pretty knowledgeable on a lot of things, and he's the brand ambassador of Load Token Project. So a lot of you guys may be familiar with Load. Load is it's a I don't want to say crypto coin, but it's a cryptocurrency in a way where it's silver backed, and that's the main thing. A lot of people like that it's silver backed, and so Nick, he'll be talking about that, and he's also the host of the AGX Media YouTube channel where he provides updates on Load and other precious metals news. And I think you guys know even David Morgan is a brand ambassador of Load. So be sure to subscribe and click on the bell so you can be notified when this interview comes out, and it'll be this week for sure. I think we should be able to get everything done and put it up this week. So let's see what's going on with other comments. Peter Wilson, 6 to 12 months, hyperinflation. A lot of guys still are hanging on to that deflation, inflation type of a scenario. I think, it may not, in the end, whether it's deflation then inflation, it does seem to lead to inflation. So whether it's deflation first, maybe, but end result, it looks like, some type of inflation, hyperinflation. So we'll see how this one plays out. Let's see what else is out there. Alexander Estefan. Years ago, it was reported that they wanted to institute a North American Union currency. I think you're talking about the Amero. The Amero was a currency that was supposed to have come out. I think it was under Bush 2. It was under his term. Excuse me, his term. They were looking to bring in this Amero, and it was supposed to have been used between Canada, U.S., and Mexico was supposed to have been a North American Union currency for those three countries, which is why they had that NAFTA. That NAFTA was supposed to help usher in that Amero. And if you look on the web, you're even going to find some pictures of how the coin was supposed to have looked. So that is true. There were talks about it back then that they were going to bring in this type of coin, that Amero, and it was supposed to have been currency for the partners in NAFTA, from my understanding, if I recall correctly. So I haven't heard that in a while. So it's nice to see that you guys recall these things. Testing me out, huh? Appreciate that. Let's see. Matthew Sismade, cheers. Heading to watch her. Yeah, yeah. She's watch it if you can. I mean, we were glad to have her on, and I'm sure she's Lynette. Lynette is Lynette. She's going to tell you how it is, what it is, when it is, and it doesn't matter if you like what she says or not. She's going to give you the truth, and or truth as she sees it, depending on how you see things. But she's going to give it to you, and that's one thing we definitely appreciate about her for sure. So we're gonna go over and take a look at the website, silverbullion.com.sg. This is our website here, and let me refresh this a bit. Okay, so we're gonna hang on. Let me just adjust this page for you guys. Okay, so we're gonna just run down. Hang on, let me refresh one more time. Okay, so sorry about that. This is our website over in Singapore, www.silverbullion.com.sg, and we are open again. We're going through 3 phases as prescribed by the government. I believe it's 3 phases. So phase 1, more of the essential businesses are opened again, so open for business. And but of course, there is a little bit of a new normal, wear masks and distancing and all that type of stuff, but trying to get back to normal. Hope we can get there. But nonetheless, US dollars in silver, let's see what's going on. $17.61. So it's up a little bit, 11 cents. Silver has been, it had a rough week last week. It was doing very, very well, and then it had a rough week towards the end. And gold, we're seeing a little bit above, where it was on Friday's close. So both metals, just kind of yawning this morning, slowly waking up. And of course, we'll see how everything goes into the week. Again, the investor kit, this is free. You can download it. A lot of good information here about silver, gold, even storage or storing overseas. And again, storage sign up. This is free. It doesn't charge anything we don't charge anything to open it or to maintain it. It's something good to have in your back pocket, where one day, even if it's not today, you may decide that, maybe you might want to consider storing overseas in a place like Singapore, where jurisdictions are in your favor. So this is something good where, go ahead and sign up for it. When you're ready, we can help walk you through it and get you going with it. But again, there's no charge to open up, no maintenance fee on it or anything. So we do hope you'll take the time to do that. And of course, the ratio 95.8. It was at 96. Looked like it went back under 96. So what this is it takes 95.8, let's just say 96 ounces of silver to equal 1 ounce of gold. And over time, what happens is this ratio will move up and down. It'll move into the hundreds. It'll move down into below 50. It'll move back up into high 90s, back down below 50. So what happens is you can flip between silver and gold, and then you can accumulate more of the metal that you prefer. So this is a good it is an indicator that a lot of guys follow when they are trying to make the decision to buy silver or gold. And then we'll take a look at Twitter. So these are some things I bookmarked. This should be fun to watch. SGT report. He's another good guy to follow. He's talking about New York City. They're going to move funds over from the police into other programs. Uh, Me personally, I find it kind of strange because the issue wasn't with the New York Police Department. It was with entirely another city, another state, but yet they're going to shift funds around. So, I mean, everyone has their opinion on this. The police, they are there for a reason, and hopefully it's the right reason. Well, 9 out of 10, it is the right reason. Once in a while, things do go bad, but anyway, everyone sees this differently. Just find it pretty amazing that they're going to take funds away from the police because, I mean, if you're a policeman who's done your job and has done it well, and then you're seeing things removed for what someone else had done, um, you know what happens if they all decide to walk out of the job, or have a week strike or something like that? So it's we're walking on basically walking on eggshells right now, walking on glass. There's a lot going on with that. um Pause. My heart goes out to anyone that who is trying or try to short this market based on fundamentals. There is no market, only Fed. Yeah, this one, it's true in a lot of ways. I mean, if I think if you're in the market for fundamentals, and you shorted that market, which the fundamentals do say by pretty much by all measures, and then it goes up on you, and I think you're going to be one of the guys who are going to be moving into silver and gold or other things outside of the current financial system, because you are definitely seeing how these markets are really being manipulated right now. No doubt about it. And this is why, if you have an economist who's talking about a recovery, run. If if an economist is talking about a recovery, run, because this recovery is not happening without the Fed, which means you do not have true markets anymore. So how can you have a true recovery? So again, when an economist says recovery, put on your running shoes, lace them up tight, and run. So it makes no sense to me. And I saw a couple of you guys from Australia. This is just the tip of the iceberg. More than 1.4 million Australians in mortgage stress, almost 100,000 at risk of defaulting, basically, as Australia enters into its first recession in 29 years. Economists predict that after the JobKeeper payment ends in September and mortgage, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So it's always good to know what's going on in other parts of the world, right? We can't just focus in on our own country. So recession leaves, 1.4 million Australians in mortgage stress. Almost 100,000 could default after JobKeeper ends. So this is coming from, where's this? abc.net.au. So mortgage stress levels among Australians have continued to soar amid the global outbreak. Well, I know this is the pandemic thing, and showing more than 1.4 million Australian households are now in mortgage stress, and almost 100,000 could soon default on their loans. And this is something you may not be hearing about in the rest of the world, but it is another indicator of what's going on. So as Australia enters its first recession in 29 years, market analysts and economists predict that once the JobKeeper payment ends in September and mortgage repayment holidays are over, these levels of cash flow stressed households could quickly translate to mortgage defaults. And this is key because I think right now in the States, even they're seeing things like forbearance. But when these things all end, when it all ends, where I think this is what's going to be coming about, where what's happening in Australia is going to be happening worldwide. And so I wanted to bring it up. So the latest data from Digital Finance Analytics, based on its rolling household surveys, reveal that to the end of May, the percentage of households in mortgage stress reached 37.5%, which equates to 142 million households. The mix of households in stress are changing as a larger number of affluent households are finding their finances are under pressure. And this is the other thing. Um, The middle class, they're already, trying to make ends meet as best they can. And when it flows over into affluent, where even affluent households start to take a hit and take a dent in their wallet, I mean, you are really going to see a separation between the have and the have nots. And some people in the upper class may move down a bit, and middle class is really going to be split and torn right down the middle. So again, this is why I wanted to bring this one up, because what is happening in Australia right now, it is going to move globally. I suspect it will move globally. It's just that we're seeing it happen in Australia first. Looking at other things here, who's going to get in line? Who's going to get in line? This was an article about the proposal to up the ante. And we talked about this before, the punch bowl. They put the punch bowl in front of Wall Street, couldn't take it away. The punch bowl is now in front of Main Street. Will they be able to take it away from Main Street, meaning helicopter money, and get everything back to normal, people back to work? Senate proposal could provide as much as $10,000 per month to American families to weather the bug, the pan or pandemic. So 10,000 a month. So one generous proposal on Capitol Hill could put as much as 10,000 per month into Americans' families' hands to help them weather the bug. In some ways, it's a nod, a nod to universal, excuse me, basic income, the concept of indefinitely providing people with a guaranteed amount of money per month. But the plan calls for providing the financial relief for only as long. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me there. Only as long as the bug lasts. Sorry about that, guys. So the bill, named the Monthly Economic Crisis Support Act, was introduced in May by Senators Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, and Ed Markey. It calls for sending $2,000 per month to individuals and $4,000 to couples, as well as $2,000 per child for up to 3 children. Those people earning under $120,000 would be eligible for support through the payments, though the payment, would be reduced for income over $100,000. So if you add that up, I mean, 3 children, mother, father, there's your 10,000, 10,000 a month. Sorry, excuse me. How do you go back to work if you're getting 10,000 a month? And if you're a business, how are you gonna open up knowing that you're competing with the government now? Government is paying people, or may pay people more to stay home than to go to work. So that's another knock for small businesses who are trying to make it and employ people. So that's pretty incredible. 10,000 per month. Silver Watchdog. The riots will keep getting bigger as the debt explodes and poverty worsens. There's no painless way out by Gold. And yes, that's exactly it. That is your way out, essentially. You're 1 foot out of the system. It's a way to, again, as we briefly touched on, store the value of what you have that's in fiat, no matter which currency. Put it over into gold and silver. And it's kind of like you're saving your players. You're in a game, you're saving your players, you sit them on the bench, and you're saving them for that time when you really need them. So it's your insurance. Looking back on the Great Reset underway. The Great Reset underway. This came from the IMF. The IMF, if you can believe this. So we're going to see what they have to say. The Great Reset. This is coming from their managing director, Kristalina Georgieva. Hope I pronounced her name right. No thanks. Anything with IMF, no thanks. So, starts off, my thanks to His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, and to Professor Schwab for bringing this together. Now is the time to think of what history would say about the crisis And now is the time for all of us to define our own role. Will historians look back and say this was the moment of the great reversal? Today, we see very worrying signs. 170 countries are going to finish this year with a smaller economy than at the start of the year, and we already project that there will be more debt, bigger deficits, and more unemployment, and there is a very high risk of more inequality and more poverty unless we act. So, what would it take for historians to look back at this crisis as the moment of a great reset? So, IMF is thinking this is the moment of the great reset. We're going to look back to this point in history. From the perspective of the IMF, we have seen a massive injection of fiscal stimulus to help countries deal with the crisis and to shift gears for growth to return. It is of paramount importance that this growth should lead to a greener, smarter, fairer world in the future. It is possible to do this provided that we concentrate on the key elements of a recovery and act now and don't need to wait. At the IMF, we see some tremendous opportunities. Those opportunities are green growth. Governments can put in place public investments and incentives for private investments that support low carbon and climate resilient growth. Many of these investments can lead to job rich recovery. If you want a job, you got to go green. I guess this is what the IMF is saying. So it's, I guess we're back at climate change again, right? So think of planting mangroves, land restoration, reforestation, and insulating buildings. Think of the key sectors for reducing carbon intensity where both the public and private sector can invest. I'm particularly keen to take advantage of the low oil prices we see today to eliminate harmful subsidies and introduce a carbon price that would work as an incentive for future investments. Um, so, green growth, smarter growth. We know the digital economy is the big winner of the crisis, but we must not allow the digital divide to widen so that some countries and communities fall further behind. This would bring more pain than gain in the future. So it is critical that institutions like the IMF support investments that will shrink the digital divide, working in partnership with the World Bank and others. So it sounds like they're going to create their own type of a digital currency, it seems, and get as much people as they can on board. So we also need to think carefully about how to make sure the jumping growth and profitability in the digital sector leads to benefits that are shared across our societies. And that leads to her third point, fairer growth. If left to its own devices, the bug is going to deepen inequality that has happened in prior bugs. So we can avoid this if we concentrate on investing in people, in the social fabric of our societies, in access to opportunities, in education for all, and in the expansion of social programs. So you're getting that one? Expansion of social programs so we can take care of the most vulnerable people, then we can have a world that is better for everyone. So basically this is we're at a crossroad right now. This is going to be a point in time that historians are going to take a look at as this being a great reset. Great. Wow. Okay, a great reset. Sorry about that. Ralph Nader, disconnect the Dow and NASDAQ averages from the economic reality facing Americans. More economists are looking at the market juiced by the Fed at near zero rates as a mechanism to further concentrate wealth in the hands of a few and increase economic inequality. Reminder, the Dow rose 2,000 points this week following riots and looting in every major city in the U.S. From Octavio Costa, money printing doesn't fix the economy. Okay, so these are okay. I'll end it there. So a lot going on with Twitter, and yeah, there's just a lot going on there. Let me take a look at the comments, and then we're gonna move over into the what we found in Gold We Trust. So let's see here. Okay, comments. Let me take a look here. Okay, Ark Omen. Can we start talking? All right, all right, all right. Hear you. Okay, let's move on into that then. Okay, so with so much, as I was saying, negative things going on in the world, decided to change things up a bit, and from what we normally choose for topics, and I was looking at the in Gold We Trust Report 2020, and there was a chapter in there on the Bible, or silver and gold in the Bible. And I wanted to go over it with you guys. So we're going to get started on that. And it is pretty interesting about what it had to say about gold and silver. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to enlist Houston Rosiawara, who is he's the author of this book here, God's Money. And it's a pretty good book. He goes over a lot of things in there, scripture and things like that, where you find a lot of instances of gold and silver in the Bible. And so we'll start off with Houston and what he said, because he was in a search for money as well. What is money?
Of money. What is money? I started to look into different economic theories, and you find a lot of, you have the advocates, the Austrian economy that advocates for sound money, and you have on the at the other end, you have these monetary theories, especially the new modern monetary theories with stimulus packages and debasing the currencies and quantitative easing and so on. So what I tried to do was to look at the debates. And I found out that looking at those debates, actually, I got more confused after each debate, because everybody had their opinions, and some things made sense, some things didn't. And then I figured out, okay, now mankind doesn't have an answer, because we had humanity around for thousands of years, billions of people making transactions every single day. And we don't know what works and what doesn't. So it's clear that mankind doesn't have an answer. So that's why I decided to look into the Bible, because I said maybe there is something there.
Okay, so Houston Rosiawara, he had questions about money, and just like in this chapter of the 2020 Gold We Trust Report, some pretty amazing clues as to what money, silver, even economics were back in the historical text, back in the Bible. And like Houston said, mankind, we do even know what we're doing. So he went back and he found scripture, points in scripture that could help him out, to help him understand. And so we're going to go and take a look at that now, where this is the in Gold We Trust report. Let me go back up to the top here. So this is 2020, May 27, 2020, the extended version. Let me move this over for you guys a bit. Sorry about that. Okay. And dawning of a golden decade. Ronald Storfley, Mark Valek, who we've had on. I think we're going to be having Mark on sometime as well. He should be coming back again. And this is one of the premier publications as far as gold. Definitely one of the premier publications. A lot of guys, they look at this publication, get their info from status quo of gold, de-dollarization from west to east, gold's flow, strong hands of Asia, gold storage, monetary endgame, gold and silver, a biblical perspective. And this is the one that caught my attention here. So we'll move over there to page 178. Okay, gold and silver, biblical perspective. Gold represents the unsurpassable medium of accumulated value based on its chemical and physical properties, scarcity while sufficiently available, and the amount of labor required to mine it and refine it to a pure, undiluted state. So some takeaways that we're going to be looking at in this chapter. There are 7 Hebrew words used in the Bible's Old Testament and one Greek word used in the New Testament that translate to gold. As a rule, these words have different secondary meanings applicable to the context in which they were used. Gold has a purpose. We'll take a look at that. Silver is money. You guys, this is might be an eye opener for you guys. And okay, so we'll just get through it. So, if you know the In Gold We Trust report, it's intended to present a holistic analysis of gold. And this year, their historical journey does not only go far back in time, but also to territory that is probably yet uncharted, especially for our readers in Europe and Asia, as we inquire into the standing and reputation of gold and silver in the Old Testament. So this journey may seem to be a transgression, but have a look for yourself. Words that translate to gold. 7 words translated to gold are zahav, the most used word in the original text, occurring 389 times. And it refers to gold or golden in a raw state. It stems from the root word which means to shimmer or to shine. Dehab, the second most used word translated to gold, 23 occurrences. The word originates from the Aramaic language, and it occurs only in the books of Daniel and Ezra, as entire passages of these books are written in Aramaic. Kethem occurs 9 times, and it means the metal in its original state, as in originally mined. Kethem stems from the root word meaning inscribed with a permanent indelible mark. Other words, pause, and then you have Charuts, Segor, and Bester. I'll just skip through these a little bit. In the original text of the New Testament, written in the Greek language, gold is expressed using different grammatical versions of the word krusos, krusian, a piece of gold, or krusos, golden, made of gold. Krusos is also used in the sense of a symbol of profound purchasing power or potential acquisition. Okay, the purpose of gold. So this is going to be the meat of everything right now. In Genesis, in the very beginning, a lot of you guys, if you've ever read the Bible, you'll come across this phrase: a land of Havilah where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. And this is when they were talking about those 2 rivers, one of those rivers, Fison or Fison, however you want to pronounce it. In that land, the gold is good. So let's refer to Houston. He'll talk about that also.
Of money. What is money? I started to look into different economic theories. And when we're told that gold is good right in the beginning,
yes,
that word good actually is also defines a purpose. So everything that when God says that things are good is not because he was happy with what he achieved, but is to tell us that there is a purpose behind the thing that is good. And actually, there is I go to large extent in the book, as you probably are aware of, that to describe what is the purpose of it. And it goes back to the fact that God made the matter and mankind is supposed to bring the work. So these 2 things together create economic value.
Okay, so in the beginning, when he said gold is good. So one of the most important rules in Bible interpretation, also known as hermeneutics, is the rule of first mention. According to this principle, the content in which a concept is mentioned for the first time will be used to determine the main applicability of that concept. Since the verse quoted above is the first time the word zahav or gold is mentioned, the overall context is definitory for gold, where gold is good. So let's take a look one more time at what it means by first use, because this part is important, how things are firstly defined.
Because when a word is mentioned for the first time, then we can look at the context because it shows the main application. So that's why when it was mentioned that gold is good, and that good means also purpose and wealth, then it means also that is the main application of gold. But also we have to understand that happened before the sin came in the world, and then we have another reference like about the silver. The first time the word is mentioned is about Abraham, where he was rich in cattle, silver, and gold. So those are important because the first time a word is mentioned, that gives us the main application of that concept.
Okay. So first use, it's very important when we understand, especially things like gold and silver in the Bible, historical context here. The statement that gold is good needs to be understood beyond the literal. Sorry about that. Meaning of the word. It means gold serves a purpose and a principle is established to make sure the purpose is fulfilled. So when they say the gold is good, it wasn't necessarily that it's pure, it's 4 nines or anything like that. It was meant more to say that it was good because it serves a purpose and a principle. As a general rule, when the purpose of a thing is misunderstood, it will either be misused or not used to its fullest potential. Therefore, understanding the purpose of gold is very important. Gold has the purpose of serving as the ultimate medium of accumulated value. This conclusion can be drawn based on analyzing chapters 1 and 2 of Genesis, where a clear connection is made between material substance and human labor. Beyond the theological perspective, mankind was given a clear economic mandate to have dominion over the earth and manage its resources for growth. This mandate can be carried through only because labor and economic growth are inseparable. Okay, labor and economic growth are inseparable. Okay, staying home and government giving people 10,000 a month, it's not entirely the way to get economies going again. So labor and economic growth are inseparable. Where no human labor is involved, everything depreciates, stagnates, or grows chaotically, which is where we are, pretty much where we are today. Through work, man is supposed to cultivate selectively and multiply the more desirable and enjoyable elements of life while protecting them from predators or the chokehold of weeds. Further, as economic growth and development created value. Value can be created only when these two elements, material substance and human labor, are present and combined. So gold represents the ultimate material substance when we take into consideration a variety of aspects. Chemically, it doesn't combine to anything else. It resists erosion and it's scarce, which are the things that make it perfect, which make it good. If we add these properties, the amount of labor required to mine it and refine it to a pure, undiluted state, we understand the purpose of gold. It is the unsurpassable medium of accumulated value. That's gold. Silver. Silver is money. And part of scripture is when Abraham, when he weighed to Ephron the silver, which he had named in the presence of his sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, current money with the merchants. And the first time silver was mentioned was basically when Abraham he was rich in cattle and also silver. But let me go one more time to Houston, where he talks about how silver is actually money in the Bible.
The word for silver and money is the same word in Hebrew. It's kesef. And that's not the only language where silver and money are defined by the same word. Probably in French we have the word argent, which means the same. So it's clear that silver and money are the same thing in the Bible. So why these two? One is the gold symbolizes purity, righteousness, because it doesn't combine with anything else. And silver, being used for exchange or trade, also symbolizes redemption.
Okay, so silver also symbolizes redemption. But silver is money. And this part here is interesting. The Hebrew word kesef has a dual meaning. It means silver and money. This can be observed because kesef is used in different contexts, sometimes referring to values in commercial transactions, sometimes referring to objects made of silver like cups, bowls, tools, etc. So again, this part is pretty clear where in scripture money is silver and silver is also money. Hebrew is not the only language in which the same word is used for both silver and money. In Greek, the language of the New Testament, the word orguros or orgurion has the same double meaning. It is also the case in French, where the word argent means both silver and money. So even from the Bible, in various cultures throughout the world, silver is money, and it goes even all the way back to the Bible where silver is money. Like any material that requires labor for extraction and refining, silver has its own value, defined by its availability, desirability, and the amount of labor required for extraction and refining. So a careful reading of any verse where kesef is used as a measure of value will reveal that the value of silver as a medium of exchange is expressed directly in its own weight. Regardless of which translation is used, these passages make a clear reference to the weight of silver. In most cases, the word used is shekel. It's a word I think a lot of us have heard before. But this is not a measure of value, but a measure of weight. Shekel comes from the root word shakal, which means to weigh. So when Abraham wanted to purchase a plot of land to bury his wife, remember when Abraham's wife died and he needed a place to bury her, right? He weighed 400 shekels of silver as payment. Further, the text makes it clear that silver is current money with the merchants. A closer look into the original text will reveal that current money can also be interpreted as acceptable for exchange by those who travel around. So it was money not just in one location. Silver was money many places all throughout the world. And Abraham, as it says here, he paid 400 shekels. This was to buy a plot of land to bury his wife. So that kind of brings in the question, how much is a shekel? So we'll come here. 400 shekels, I already did this ahead of time. 400 shekels, because I knew this thing was going to pop up here. 400 shekels is, you can barely see it here, 4,536 grams. 4,536 grams. So if I go ahead and I calculate that up real quick, 4,536, 453. Oh, sorry about that. Let me 4,536, and we'll divide it by 31.1 to get the ounces. 145, and if we multiply that, somewhere around, where are we at? 1780 right now. It's the price of an ounce of silver, somewhere around there. We have $2,596.13. And why is this important? Well, because historically in the Bible it says that that's how much Abraham paid for a plot of land, 400 shekels, just a plot to bury his wife. And when we take a look today, the average burial plot cost in the U.S., this is $2,500 here, which is what Abraham paid, $2,500. And we see that it's still very, very much in the ballpark of what a burial plot would cost today. This is just a plot now, the piece of land. So Abraham paid 400 in shekels, and that's still above the average of a burial plot today. So this is again how you can see silver all the way from historical times through its ups and downs is still holding the value of what it was all the way back in Abraham's time. And I found this pretty amazing that it stored value all the way through from Abraham's time. So also the same connection between silver and weight can be seen in the New Testament, where we learn about Judas betraying Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. And the Greek word used to describe the payment is histemi, meaning to weigh, and it corresponds to the Hebrew word shakal used in the Old Testament. So, in conclusion with this part here, silver, like gold, does have a value. Rather, silver is the value, and the value of a transaction is determined by the weight of silver transferred. Hence, silver is money, and it's interchangeable with the word kosef, which is silver and which is money. So even from this time, silver was money. Abraham's riches, a complete economic model. So Abraham was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. And sometimes a lot of people they wonder why did they say silver? Why did they say gold? So we'll take a look at this also in Houston's point of view. Circle back a bit. We mentioned Abraham, cattle, silver, and gold. What did each represent? What did his cattle represent? What did the silver represent? What did the gold represent?
Yeah, it's an economic model, and that shows actually that the things that were written thousands of years ago still have validity today, because cattle, in an agrarian society, people had two things to do. Either they were plant cultivators or they were animal farmers. So cattle is a productive activity. So it shows production. Not only that it sustained the family, it provided food for them, but it also had the possibility to have it growing, because in the beginning it was a principle was activated that the fruit will contain the seed, which means that everything that was growing will develop to maturity and will produce a fruit that will contain a seed. So all the fact that he was rich, that Abraham was rich in cattle, it shows that he had productive means. At some point, he had too much of productive of food for himself and family. So what he could do, he had to exchange. He needed to exchange the surplus for something that would be non-perishable, that would allow him to buy the things that he wasn't producing himself. And what was that medium of exchange? It was silver. And that is the first.
Okay, so that was the first mention of silver. It was the things that Abraham was rich in, and how he had to put money had to be in a different form where he could use it. And so Abram, later known as Abraham, was one of the patriarchs of Judaism and Christianity. And a deeper analysis of the fact that he was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold will reveal a complete and cohesive economic model consisting of three fundamental economic functions that all humans need and that all economies are built on. These three things are production, exchange, and wealth accumulation. So Abraham's livestock was his productive source of revenue, which sustained him and his family. It also ensured a flow of goods that was not only constant, but also steadily increasing. As the herds produced more goods than he and his family would ever be able to consume, he needed to exchange the overflow into alternative form of goods, an alternative form of goods. Sorry about that. Something that would not only last beyond the normal lifetime of meat and dairy products, but also be acceptable among the wider population. So using metals as a medium of exchange proved to be very convenient because of their universal acceptance. Hence, Abram traded the products of his herds for kesef, for silver, which is money in the form of silver pieces. In trading his productive overflow for silver, Abram accumulated a non-perishable asset that could be used later to require whatever he and his family needed. And this is why you often hear silver and gold is generational wealth, because it basically stands the test of time. So therefore, Abram's silver represents the second fundamental economic function, exchange. So as his herds of cattle kept growing and the silver also increased in such abundance that he could not use it all, Abram exchanged the excess silver for gold, since it's approximately 15 to 20 times scarcer than silver. Gold is much more valuable and can be used to store higher values in a concentrated form. So while both of these metals serve as the Bible's defined medium or mediums of exchange, their usage is different. So silver is used for everyday transactions in which the value of the goods and services exchanged is relatively low. Gold is used for higher value transactions with more wealth accumulation and wealth transfer to future generations. So based on these biblical principles, long-lasting wealth building accumulation cannot be accomplished based on assets that represent someone else's ability to perform, whether that party is an individual, human, or any entity created by man. In modern vernacular, such assets are said to carry counterparty risk. Counterparty risk, as the asset's value is derived from another party's ability to deliver or provide based on a promise, being subject to circumstances outside their own control. Human individuals and entities created by man can only make conditional promises. So let me go into this part here. Why gold and silver are suitable money.
So when I go to work somewhere, I have a job and get a paycheck. Now I get a paycheck that actually I get some numbers in the bank's computers. It's not even pieces of paper anymore. So I put something that is tangible, which is my time, my skills, my knowledge. I put it to my employer, and I get in exchange some immaterial numbers with some labels attached to it. So that's an unfair exchange. And coming back to your question about gold and silver, if I would be paid in something that it has material component in it, then it's a fair exchange, because I put labor and I get something, and I use some material in my work, then I get in exchange kind of the same nature of the things. So that's why I'm a very strong advocate for having material money. And of course, gold and silver is the most suitable for that because of the value.
Okay, gold and silver are suitable money. The astute economist and investor of today may find it important to respect the long-lasting validity of the principles revealed by Abraham's wealth, as they reveal a complete economic model that's still valid. All three economic functions are necessary for a good life. And again, those three functions were, back up here again, production, exchange, wealth accumulation. Those three things are essential for a good life. Owning productive assets without growing them and accumulating for the future will make one totally dependent on the activities performed with those assets. Once the productive flow slows, so does consumptions. And if a significant amount of money is suddenly gained by inheritance, lottery, etc., but there is no production, consumption will dry out the entire stash of cash. So if no wealth is accumulated, there are no reserves for times of economic downturn, and nothing will be left for future generations. And I guess if I could add in here, the only thing left is for that printing press to run 24/7. So in summary, what I'll do after here is I'll take a look at some actual scripture and what it says. In summary, Gold is defined as good. It means gold serves a purpose, referring to the process of creating the earth and giving mankind to mandate to take dominion over. There we go. The Bible reveals an important principle for creating economic value that where the requirement for two basic elements, material substance, matter, and work. Labor. Work represents man's contribution to growth and development using natural resources where no human labor is involved. Everything depreciates, stagnates, or grows chaotically. Through work, man is supposed to cultivate selectively and multiply the more desirable and enjoyable elements of life. So let me just scroll down a bit more here, see if there was anything else out here. A return to sound money based economic system does not mean a return to carrying around heavy coin pouches filled with gold and silver pieces and doing away with technological advances. Technology can still be used to immediately transfer value from one party to another, value that is backed by different weights of gold and silver stored in vaults around the world. So, in the absence of political will, which is definitely an absence of, the answer to our question may depend on what and how long it will take for individuals to be capable of creating a critical mass that will adopt, using the latest digital technologies, a value exchange system based on gold and silver. So this is where we talked about some type of gold-backed cryptocurrency, right? So as odd as it may have seemed, the Old Testament confirms the principles that the In Gold We Trust report, the Bible of Gold reports, has supported ever since its first edition. I'll play one more clip from Houston and we'll take a look at some scripture.
So when I go to work somewhere, I have a job and get a paycheck. Now I get a paycheck that actually I get some numbers in the bank's computers. It's not even pieces of paper anymore. So I put something that is tangible, which is my time, my skills, my knowledge. I put it to my employer, and I get in exchange some immaterial numbers with some labels attached to it. So that's an unfair exchange. And coming back to your question about gold and silver, if I would be paid in something that it has material component in it, then it's a fair exchange because I put labor and I get something and I use some material in my work, then I get in exchange kind of the same nature of the things. So that's why I'm a very strong advocate for having material money. And of course, gold and silver is the most suitable for that because of the value. It was there, yeah. When I was transited on the airport in Heathrow, I got that £5 bill, and I read that statement that was kind of intriguing because it says, yeah, I promise to pay to the bearer of demand on demand the amount of £5. And I was looking, is like, okay, I thought I got the £5, and I knew somewhere in my mind that a pound is a measure of weight. And it's like, okay, so do I have the £5 or not? What is with that promise? So where do I take this paper to the treasury to get £5? So that is how it started me to think, actually, those pieces of paper that we use for exchange, what is that? Where is the connection between the pounds? What's the difference between the pounds and the promise that I'm looking at? So that is how I started to investigate and understand the difference between money and currencies.
Okay. Those pieces of paper, what is that? I like how he expressed that there. Before I get into this, let me take a look at some of the comments here. Then I'll come back to some other things that we can talk about. Or actually more scripture. We'll get into some of the scripture. Let's see. Dan Plummer, I like your comments, man. They're so down to earth. I mean, straight to the bone. Unfair exchange. You get digits to go buy stuff. Yeah. So your time, your labor, you're putting some real things in there. And what happens? You get digits. You get a piece of paper that doesn't really hold any value, and I mean it is an unfair exchange, and this is why But I think you see some of the things going on today, including things like the wealth gap. It's definitely an unfair exchange. So let's see what else is out there. Um, let's see. Well, okay, I'll tell you what. I'll get into that. The little bit more of a fun part. So that was from the In Gold We Trust report, where they put out a chapter on gold and silver in the Bible, and I went ahead and took a look at a few other things as well that weren't in there. So let's take a look at a few other Bible verses that talk about money, economy, and even employment. Employment is a pretty interesting take as well. Leviticus 19:13. Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor, neither rob him. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night unto the morning. So, hey, what does it mean? Does it mean we're supposed to get paid every day? Sounds pretty good, right? Means we should get paid every day. However, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, which means we work 6 days a week and only have 1 day off. So I know employers are smiling at this one, and employees are smiling at the one before that. So that was pretty interesting. There's a little bit of a trade-off there. Colossians 3:22. Servants, meaning employees, obey in all things your masters, can mean employer, according to the flesh, not with eye service as men pleasers, but with singleness of heart, fearing God. Broken down, do your job. Do your job, whether your boss is next to you or not, whether you're working home or not. Do your job. An honest day's work for an honest day's wage, right? So let's remember to do our job willfully and dutifully. Let's do our job. Colossians 4:1. Employers, give your servants or your employees that which is just and equal. Okay, so employers, take care of your employees as best you can. Employees, take care of your employers as best you can. It's how it works. Now, regardless of religion, it's simply saying, employers, if you are a business owner, give your employees a fair wage. And this is interesting because if you notice, a fair wage refers to the employee. It refers to the employee. A fair wage does not refer to the shareholder. A fair wage does not refer to what the business can afford. The fair wage goes to the employee. So I found that pretty interesting, where nothing else tied into how you value that employee. If a guy is worth something, he's worth something, and you work with that. But it's a hard thing to do today. That's for sure. It is hard to do. Genesis 47:18-19. When that year was ended, they came unto him the second year, and they said unto him, we will not hide it from my Lord, how that our money is spent. My Lord also hath our herds of cattle, where there is not aught left in the sight of my Lord, but our bodies and our lands. Wherefore shall we die before thine eyes, both we and our land, by us and our land, for bread? And we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh. This is debt. When you go into debt, you look for mercy. You do things you might not normally do. And history shows us in the Bible how people are even willing to be slaves in order to live. And this is it's a dangerous thing, but people are willing to be slaves in order to live. They say gold is the money of kings, silver the money of gentlemen, but debt, as even scripture is showing and saying, debt is the money of slaves. Deuteronomy 25:15. But thou shalt have a perfect and just weight, a perfect and just measure shalt thou have. Leviticus 19:35. Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. in metyard, in weight, or in measure. Proverbs 11:1. A false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. So these are three verses from back in the Old Testament, and they are reference to money and trade. When trading, there needs to be a standard, a weight, a measurement of the good being sold. And when you buy, there needs to be a weight, a measurement, even a purity as well. Why? Because, and some of you guys said this, for the love of money is the root of all evil. It's not the money that's evil, it's the love of money. And when we do things like cheat people of their value, cheat people by not giving what we say we are going to give them, such as quantity or quality, we are letting our love of money rule over our honesty, our integrity, and our fairness. So this part is important. And this absolutely relates to where we are today. Governments and central banks are cheating us of our worth, our time, our labor. We're not getting paid justly, fairly, with a proper weight or measurement of what money is. It's even called an abomination. And as part of this result, we have a wealth gap. This wealth gap is causing a divide in living standards, education, how we see and value, and people dividing us even down to things like race, things like religion. And this is the fallout when not money, but the love of money takes control, and governments and central banks cheat the citizenry by giving them debased paper called money. And just wanted to get some of your input on that, because it really the scriptural part is this much, the reality is this much, but you can see how why the In Gold We Trust report went ahead and included this chapter, because if you just think of it as a historical context, it tells you what things were supposed to have been and how we moved away from it to where we are today, and why we're coming across all these problems today, and why people wish to go back to some type of a gold standard. So it's pretty amazing to see how this history unfolds over time. And so we'll take a look at some of these comments here. Um, let's see. Hoster of Carcosa, a currency based on 12 keystrokes. Who knew the IQ of the world had gotten so low? Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. It doesn't. This goes beyond any type of scripture, religion, or anything. It goes to show where we are basically, our money is being debased, and we've talked about money being debased before, and it happens all throughout history. And money is supposed to be a certain thing, something that the store value part, that's probably one of the more important things, and we're not seeing that. And when they talk about there's no inflation, well, go back to 71 and take a look at a chart. You're going to see there is inflation. It's been going up. It's been going up ever since. Without a doubt, it has been going up ever since. Let me take a look at a few more comments. Um, let me see here. Okay, so I'll get back to a few more of these these commentary parts here. So documented history tells us and shows us how, again, money should have a just weight and measure. And relative to the dollar, we talked about this the other week. Silver and gold had a weight, a measurement to define its worth. And as an example, a dollar is defined as a unit that contains 371.25 grains of silver. So there was a weight to what the money was, and even there's a purity. And this is where the In Gold We Trust report referred all the way back to Abraham and his cattle. And today we don't have that weight. We basically just have a paper, a piece of paper with some ink on it, and maybe some might have more ink on it, maybe some might be a little bit bigger than the next, but there's no real weight to what we have today. And households, marriages are under stress. We're seeing this. We're seeing in Australia where they're a lot of mortgages are going to go into default, and I'm pretty sure that's going to circle around and go into different areas of the world as well. So we're incredibly divided right now, and much of it is due to for the love of money, where governments and central banks have debased. Um, Politicians want to stay in office forever, and they promise this and that and this and that and this and that, and money has to be debased, and printed or digitally added to accounts, and we're seeing this. We are seeing it. So it leads us to turn on the very people we love. We turn on the people we work with. We even turn on ourselves, where we compromise our honesty and our integrity. And I think if governments, banks, business owners, employees all followed what we talked about here, from a true weight and measurement of money, goods, services, all the way to how employees treat and value their employer, and their employer valuing their employee, if we had all these things wrapped up and with a gold standard, sound and honest money, it is good, and it leads to honest and good things. And although what might be just as good or even better is if we simply applied that gold standard, which we're all trying to get and hoping for, we just applied it to our hearts, our families, our neighbors, and colleagues, otherwise known as having a heart of gold. That heart of gold, it starts with me, and it starts with you. But one more thing. I can't leave without this, because I know you guys, you're smart guys out there. I know you know this. Every 7 years was to be a time of total debt forgiveness and slave release. This is in Deuteronomy 15, 1-3. Every 50th year, there was not only debt forgiveness, but also return of all land, except in cities, to the people which may have been loaned out or sold. So the 50th year, or Jubilee, was after 7 sevens, or 49 years. And that's in Leviticus 25 and 27, 16-18. But the part about every 7 years was to be a time of total debt forgiveness and slave release. I know in the States, if I recall, if you had a debt and you didn't pay it for 7 years, then basically it was wiped out. I do recall something like that. So perhaps this is where they got it from. So wiping out a debt every 7 years would not allow enslavement to debt, or enslavement to be built up. So fiat currencies collapsing to zero, or lost confidence in the entire system of fraudulent weights and measurements, would force an end to this monetary experiment, what is called in scripture an abomination. Gold and silver are sound money, and they are even what God called good. So even that, is pretty interesting. So there were a lot of interesting points there. There's even more interesting points. So, this was not meant to be a religious, take on it or anything. It was meant to be from a biblical perspective, an historical text, a book written by 44 authors spanning over 1,500 years, I believe. This historical text tells us how or what money was meant to be and what was meant to be used as money. And we even did it. For centuries, we did it. We had gold, we had silver, and what always happened was debasement. And we're seeing again that debasement. In today's terms, we don't have the metal coins anymore, or the gold and silver in the coins anymore, but we have debasement, meaning printing or digitally adding into people's accounts. That is debasement in a fiat sense. And eventually it will move over into some type of inflation, maybe even hyperinflation. Some guys say deflation first, but we'll see how it all pans out. But there is a lot of money being thrown around in the world right now. So let me go ahead and take a look at more of your comments. Mastering the human experience. Mortgages were 7 years long. I did not know that. I've always seen it as 10, 15, 30 years. I didn't know they were 7 years. So, okay, learned something new. You sure about that, right? Okay. Something new learned today. Let's see. Pauser Bob. Bible is text of all time if you can interpret. That's a true statement. There's a lot of things in there that can be even applied today, and there's a lot of things in there that even will tell you about what's coming ahead. And even if you had a person who knew the Bible and a person who doesn't necessarily know it, both sides will see what's coming ahead, and they'll see they'll pretty much see the same things where, money's going to get in trouble, money failed. And basically, we've seen all this before. There's nothing new under the sun. And you guys know what I mean when I say that. So let's see. RR, men of gold, men of silver, men of bronze, men of iron are referring to the age's corruption of ethics, which is also reflected in the corruption of the money of those ages. Money has been corrupted through all ages, and we're in another time. We're in another time where we're going to see money being corrupted. It is being corrupted. We're in another time where the IMF is saying, historians may look back at this time as being the time of the Great Reset, or whatever that term was that they used. So we are living in that time right now where things are changing in such different ways right now, and a lot of it has to do financially, economically, and like I say, with governments, giving people money now, it's going to be tough for people to get off of it and go to work. And with businesses, perhaps not being able to compete with a government salary for staying at home versus a salary for working, I think you're going to see small businesses finding it pretty rough. And that's going to add to the consolidation, which we also talked about. Our choices are going to become fewer. We aren't going to have as many choices as we do today. And, all of this, again, it leads to what's going on with central banks and government. It goes back to understanding that, fiat currencies, their intrinsic value is zero, and it'll get back to zero. It's just a matter of confidence. If people are confident in fiat currencies, the game will continue. If people start to lose confidence, which it looks like it may happen after another phase or two, we're going to see a huge shift. And why I say another phase or two is because if people are given money to stay home, I think you're going to find a lot of people may enjoy that, and they may not see the need to really go out and work. But for the guys who are working, they're going to get tired. They're going to get fed up. They're going to say, "Why am I giving up my time, my labor, for these pieces of paper?" And guys are getting the same amount or even more for staying home, and they're printing and stuffing it in people's accounts. Well, why don't they pay my taxes then? Why don't they give me money to go pay my mortgage for me, or go pay my child's college? Why should I have to pay anything anymore if they can just print money and give it all over the place? And eventually that's what's going to cause, I believe that's what's going to cause a loss of confidence. And again, this is why you definitely want to be holding gold and silver. It's not financial advice, it's just my opinion. You want to be holding gold and silver because it's a historically it shows how it stores value, it stores wealth. Go back to Abraham, 400 shekels to buy a plot of land for his wife translates to $2,500 today. You look at the average piece of land, just a plot, it's about that same amount today. So all the way from that time, it's stored the value of your money all the way over. If you had $1 in that time, it's not worth $1 today, that's for sure. I think you guys know, since Federal Reserve was created in 1913, it's lost 97% of its purchasing power. So, again, you got to find things outside of the current system, because when this current system changes over, falls apart, whatever it is, you need something to transition you from here to there. And gold and silver, those are two things that will definitely take you through that transition. So I'll take a look at a few more comments, and then I'll head out. So I hope this was a little bit of a breath of fresh air for you guys. Something, it's a bit of a different topic, but it's pretty interesting to see how, from historical perspective, it carries through over to today. And again, even how gold and silver being a store of value over time. So let's take a look at the take a look at some comments here, and then I'll head out. Um, let's see, Douglas. Oh, that's a nice last name. Doesn't the verse say the love of money is the root of? I'm going to say depends what Bible you're looking at. If it's the King James version, it's for the love of money is the root of all evil. So I know there's a lot of different types of Bibles, but in sticking with the King James, that's what it says. For the love of money is the root of all evil. Good comment. Let's see. What else is out there? Thunderbird. Most people are poor because shareholders are stealing their wages. Um, that's a tough one. I mean, it's a corporation's job is to make money for its shareholders. I mean, when we look at things today, that's corporation's job, and part of that is you the definition of a job will allow for a certain salary, and again, this is where we are today, and I don't think shareholders are necessarily uh, cheating the employee, but I will say there is definitely a wealth gap where the guys at the top, top, and the average employee, there is a huge disparity between the two. You know, I guess in fairness, as employees, if you don't own a business, if you're an employee, you are free to move on and see what else is out there. It's a free market. It's a free market, and those words may seem a bit harsh, but it is a free market. But let's look down the road when, again, when things start to consolidate and less of those businesses have less employees and less opportunities for people, um, it may not it may not get better, for a lot of people. So we are free to move around. We are free to expand ourselves. Get better in what we do. Um, Learn more things. Because your biggest asset right now, is yourself, and that's something we can't forget. I understand your question. I get your point. I get your point, but it's we always can rely on upgrading ourselves as well. But I do understand your point. So taking a look at more comments here. Let's see. Um, I'll just grab one or two more comments and then I'll head out here. Let's see. RR. Oh, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Whatever we believe, the central banks and governments' intentions are with the money printing. The fact is irrefutable. They are perverting human nature. It is tough, what we're seeing right now. It is tough. The economy is. I think that's the tough part because I think even the average Joe knows, and this is why I said if an economist tells you recovery, run, because even the average Joe knows there's no recovery. The Fed is basically, you know, patching balloons, patching bubbles all over the place and trying to reinflate. It's not a recovery. I mean, anybody knows those patches, those band-aids, eventually they come off again. You know, they will come off, and it's going to be even worse when that happens. So, even the average Joe knows there's no recovery. There's a reinflation going on, and let's just hope that reinflation or doesn't lead to a hyperinflation. So, but I think you can definitely count on this. The Fed reinflating is going to lead to inflation, and eventually it's going to lead to maybe even some type of hyperinflation. There's just too much money sloshing around all over the world right now. So it's a good question. A good comment. Appreciate that. And let's see what else. I'll take a look at one more, and then we'll probably head out. Let's see. Seymour Rivers, U.S. dollar backed by bombs. You know, that is truth. That is definitely truth. It was backed by gold. It was backed by silver at some point. Backed by oil, petrodollar. But I think in fairness, it is backed by the military as well. So there is truth in what you said. Um, let's just hope it never gets to that. That let's just hope it never gets to it. But again, it's gold and silver is where it's at. I mean, financially, you got to be able to get through this transition that's coming. So anyway, I do hope you folks found this interesting. It's there are more scriptures out there that relate to money, to gold and silver, but just wanted to take a break from the everything that's going on right now. It is a crazy time, and it's kind of like what Gerald Salente said. When people have nothing to lose, they lose it, and he's so true and spot on when he said that. Right now you're seeing a lot of people, they may not have much to lose, and they're losing it. So we got to get through this as best we can. Get through it as best we can. So anyway, um, I do appreciate you guys being here. Um, Again, I do hope this was useful to you in some way, and just be sure to take care of each other. Take Be sure to take care of each other, and we'll see what happens next week as far as if we start, well, in a couple weeks, if we start seeing the bug start to make a U-turn. So that should be something to keep in the back of your minds as well, to see what's going to happen with that. But anyways, there'll be good days to look forward to ahead. That's for sure. But until then, like I say, just make sure you all take care of each other. Saddle up for what's coming ahead, and silver up as well. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.